next up, I want to go round by round. Did you put this list in somewhere?
It's not in the. It's not in that chat. No.
Oh, you're going to surprise me here.
So
let's go round by round. We'll start in round 1, and we'll give our favorite pick by round. So I haven't seen your list yet. I'm curious to know where you go. What was your favorite first round pick, Sam?
My favorite pick of the first round was Gray Zabel to the Seattle Seahawks.
Wow.
I love Gray Zabel as a player. Interior offensive lineman, played tackle at North Dakota State. He's going to be a guard or a center at the next level. He was a very good tackle at North Dakota State, obviously a step up in competition, was the best player at the Senior Bowl for the entire week, playing not just one, but 3 new positions to him. They played him at both guard spots and at center, and in all 3, he was dominant and playing sometimes like a different position each rep. Like he'd be at guard, and then the next rep he's at center, the next rep he's at the other guard spot. And he was just consistently dominating all of these defensive linemen. So from that point on, I've been like, how high can you push him in the first round? And at that point, he wasn't even really a consensus first rounder. For Seattle, it was by far their biggest area of need. They don't like doing that, and they just didn't overthink it. They just went, this guy's awesome. We can play him at any one of the 3 interior spots. Just draft him. Just pull the trigger and accept that it might not be, optimal draft strategy, but who gives a crap? Like it's the right pick.
So the biggest thing for you was Seattle kind of coming out of their comfort zone, drafting the interior offensive lineman. You had been pounding the table for that the entire offseason. And I had some doubts. I didn't think they were going to listen to you. We had a big argument about it during one of our mock drafts. I was like, no, take the best player available, get the guard in the second round. That's how you got to play it. And they went and did it. They went and grabbed the guard / center, whatever you want to call them right now. I haven't had a minute to listen to the press conferences. Let us know if John Schneider or Mike McDonald confirmed where Zabel's going to start. But he's starting on the interior of the offensive line somewhere for Seattle. So, yeah, I respect that. I went with Tetairoa McMillan as my favorite pick by the Carolina Panthers. And again, I have a soft spot for not reaching for needs, and when you take what feels like the best player at the time. And guilty, right? We sat there every time we talked about the Panthers, we only talked defense. And I'm a take the best player at the most valuable position guy. That's at my heart. And every time we brought up edge rushers, we said, there's a question here, question there. There's questions about McMillan. I get it. I still like him, though. I like him as a top 10 player. So you get him at 8, and then they fulfilled the rest of the strategy, like we talked about a few minutes ago, by getting 2 edge rushers who are very talented, and I think probably top 40, top 50 players in this draft. So McMillan first, though, I think it's a fantastic weapon for Bryce Young. It knocks Xavier Legette down a peg on the depth chart, so you get a little bit less pressure on last year's first rounder. And I think McMillan, high volume, win at every level, just good all-around, big-bodied receiver, sure-handed for Bryce Young. So I liked this pick quite a bit for the Panthers because I think this was a mature pick by the Carolina Panthers, taking a really good player and not reaching for defensive needs.
The Carolina Panthers offense and Bryce Young next year could be really exciting. I mean, it's his turnaround last year was remarkable, and the way he was playing late in the season was pretty fantastic without a great receiving core around him, right? Like the offensive line is very good. The receiving core was serviceable, but it wasn't amazing. If McMillan is the guy that the first round pick suggests he could be, if Legette takes a step forward, if Coker continues to develop, or if Jimmy Horn becomes a player, if Jatavian Sanders develops, like that offense could become pretty spectacular pretty quickly.
All right, so that's our favorite pick from round 1. What was your favorite pick from round 2?
There were a lot of picks in round 2 that I really liked. Difficult nailing this down to one. I ended up going with Luther Burden to the Chicago Bears, pick number 39. A lot of these guys fell to the second round, and you could sort of see the reasoning for some of it, whether it's injuries, whether it's off-field concerns, whatever. And some of that applies to Luther Burden as well. But I think people have forgotten how freaky talented he is, right? I've been saying this all the way through the draft process. 2023, Luther Burden is a top 10 player in this draft. And if you just forget everything and just look at that and remind yourself like how good he is, how talented he is, and now you just plugged him into the Chicago Bears offense that's revamped their offensive line, that's brought in Ben Johnson, one of the best offensive minds in the game, that's got Caleb Williams, former number 1 overall pick who was talked about as, an incredibly talented prospect with 2 other receivers already there to take attention away from him. Like, things are set up, and, Colson Loveland, like, legitimate threat added to the mix already. Things are set up for Luther Burden to be able to come in and just do what he does best, which is make plays and make fools miss.
It's another one, Sam, where so many people, myself included, we expected running back for the Bears. They didn't take a running back until round 7. Kyle Monangai from Rutgers, right? Who's just he might have a chance. That dude runs hard. He might have a chance. 7th round running back. So many people wanted a running back there, and it's like wide receiver 3 or running back. And Travion Henderson had just come off the board. Maybe they would have taken him if New England didn't snatch him up the pick before, but I really liked it, man. I'm always a believer in getting to 3 to 4 receivers that are difficult to cover, and I think the Bears move in that direction with Burden. So, yeah, I like that one quite a bit. I went Donovan Ezeraku from the Dallas Cowboys as my favorite second rounder. Would have taken him in the first, would have been happy in the first. He was the guy at that time we were saying, hey, Ezeraku's probably each of our favorite players on the board, right? Will Johnson was still there at that time, but we knew there's an injury. Mike Green was still there at the time. We knew there's off-field. But Ezeraku, I thought, was great value for Dallas, position of value, and has a chance to compete for a starting spot right away.
All right, that's enough of that, Steve. Over 50% of the people listening to this are not subscribed right now. So click that button, and then we can get back to whatever it is Steve's telling you about.
My camera doing all right? Am I back?
Just about. Yeah. Well, you were until you said that.
Wonderful. Doing great. Give me round 3, Sam.
Round 3. Again, I liked quite a lot of the picks in round 3. I had a couple names written down actually before I ended up going back to this. I was like, value, blah, blah, blah. And I went, no, it's favorite. My favorite pick. My favorite pick of the 3rd round is Darian Porter, the cornerback from Iowa State, going to the Raiders at 68. So pretty high in the 3rd round. But I kept coming back to this idea that, like, I think he has first round tape. It's just 7 games of it, right? First round tape, first round ability, physical tools, 6'3", 195 pounds, who runs a 4.3 and jumps out of the gym and has crazy agility drills. Like, these are all first round traits. It's just he's got such a weird backstory of 6 years of play, 64 games, and only 7 starts and only 3 seasons playing cornerback. I love the risk. I love, like, the gamble on what he could become. The Senior Bowl scared me a little bit from being just, too bullish on him. But in the 3rd round, I think that's a steal. Like, I think that's exactly where you want to take that kind of roll of the dice.
Buddy, the types of players that the Raiders added, size, speed, just unique type. Jack Besh is a unique player. Dante Thornton's a unique player. J.J. Pegues, there are a lot of unique players for their position, body types, styles. Kind of like that about the Raiders draft, including Darian Porter, when you talk about unique player, size, speed, and story.
Dude, they should sell tickets to the one-on-one practice reps between Darian Porter and Dante Thornton Jr.
Yes.
Like 2 giant, freaky, fast people.
Let's go to training camp just to watch it. Let's go call up Chip and Spy Tech. Let's do it.
Stay at circuit.
My favorite 3rd rounder. How about this one? Also Cowboys. Chavone Revel, cornerback out of East Carolina. The Cowboys had my favorite 2nd and 3rd round pick because I think Revel, again, fringe 1st round type of talent. The only thing I'm hesitant on is his age and the injuries, right? He's coming off the injury. Yeah. He's a little bit older. And to repeat for the millionth time, like when you're looking at the age thing, you just have to watch the film and say, this guy was 23. This guy was older when he was doing the things that are impressive. And you're watching him, play against 21-year-olds, but also the other prospects you're scouting are 21 and have theoretical more growth potential. But I just think Revel's ball skills, size, length, movement skills, as you mentioned in your notes, to get him in the 3rd would be outstanding. That's what the Cowboys did. I would have taken him higher. So, yeah, I think the value was really nice there for Dallas.
Yeah, agreed. I like it just because I nailed the area where he went in my notes. It's like I love the gamble in the 3rd round, but I'd be uncomfortable taking him higher. So, yeah, it makes sense.
Who's your favorite 4th rounder, Sam?
Q Robinson to the Denver Broncos. Dude, Q Robinson was one of my favorite, second wave, day 3 type of prospect that I came across. You watch his tape and you were sort of, I was working my way down the list of like consensus players and, down the rankings effectively when I was watching the tape. And the first guy for a while that I turned on the tape and was like, oh, this is physical tools that we can work with here. Like, he has absolute legit juice on day 3. He's a weird career where he didn't play much on defense, has more special teams experience than he does defensive experience. But despite that lack of experience, we've got legitimate speed and athleticism and burst. We've got legitimate speed and threat around the edge. We have an inside counter off that. And we have a powerful power move with a long arm up the middle where he can just run through offensive tackles. So those 3 things together, he can beat you to the outside. He can beat you to the inside off that outside counter. And then he can run right through you with power, with speed to power. Those 3 things mean you can be a day 1 situational pass rusher in the NFL, right? If you can't do anything else, and I think he probably can, you can have day 1 success being a situational pass rusher because you can attack an offensive tackle in 3 separate ways and have him concerned about all of them. I think Q Robinson in the 4th is really good value.
A lot of Broncos fans didn't love the draft, and I liked Jahdae Barron in the 1st, and we both loved Q. So that was for a 4th rounder. I love that as a developmental edge prospect. There were some good 4th rounders there. I went Jalen Royals for the Chiefs. You probably saw my list and wanted to take him, but the Chiefs just kept ticking a lot of boxes where I saw a path to players playing and contributing. And that's not always the way you want to judge it, but I thought Royals was a 2nd round type of player at receiver. Good route runner. Yep. We don't know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice, for the next couple of years, if he's ever going to be suspended. And I think he's different from what they have. He's not as dynamic as Worthy or Marquise Brown. I don't think he's as good as after the catch as Rashee Rice has shown. Just a good all-around receiver that I think can, if he needed to be a higher volume target, I think he could do it. And so I think he could become a Pat Mahomes favorite over there. And you're getting that in the 4th after already stacking up some other wins. So again, that's why I liked the Chiefs draft overall, but Royals in particular, getting him in the 4th, I think he could become a big-time contributor here for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think Royals is a really good player. I think it's a great landing spot for him too.
How about round 5? There was some more. I saw some of your favorites here in round 5.
Yeah, I liked quite a few picks in round 5 as well. Braden Swinson to New England, I ended up going with pick 146. Again, I think Swinson's just a really good player. I genuinely thought he was an early day 2, maybe he could sneak into round 1 type of player. And he ends up being available all the way down the 5th round. The Patriots bring him in. Again, another place where there's a pathway to playing time for him with the Patriots. But I had him ranked like inside my top 10 somewhere on the defensive line. Like, he's a really, really effective player.
I had a feeling you might go with Swinson. I considered him, but best 5th round pick is Shedeur Sanders, Sam. Shedeur in the 5th. Yeah. That's my favorite. It's my favorite for the story, the drama. I feel good for Shedeur getting drafted that we don't have to deal with, he doesn't have to deal with going undrafted, and that he went to a place where he can compete for starting quarterback job. He's got a legit path to play. And if he can play, if he shows anything, just like if Dylan Gabriel shows anything, they'll get on the field. Browns aren't going to be tied to Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett. So Shedeur has an opportunity there. We've talked about him quite a bit. We'll continue to talk about him. So it's a fascinating story, but it was also at that point probably just a good process move by the Browns there.
Yeah, I mean that's the best value pick in the draft, in my opinion. I'm not sure it's my favorite exactly, but it's definitely incredible value given what expectations were.
All right, let's go round 6. What was your favorite pick?
So my favorite pick in round 6 is Ahmad Hassanain to Detroit. I just think the combination of that guy being connected with Dan Campbell is too much fun to ignore. He's an amazing backstory. He's like a great feel-good story as a prospect, as a player. First Egyptian to be drafted to make the NFL. A real like hard-working hustle type of player. As I said, the thing that really made me notice him in the first time was when we went to the combine, and he's there like barking at the coaches before every drill, before every snap, and they're barking back, right? The two guys are like going at each other. Dan Campbell's going to love that. Dan Campbell is going to have a statue of that kid built by the end of training camp, and he's going to have him in there in the meeting rooms. He's going to be, referring to him during his motivational talks. He's going to find a way of using him on the roster. I love that connection.
You and I try to make our rounds during training camp. We didn't get to Detroit last year. Just to watch him practice might be worth the trip for us, a few hours away here. My favorite sixth rounder was Luke Newman, the guard out of Michigan State going to the Bears. Just talked about this a little while ago in our round 6 recap, but Newman comes from Holy Cross, 2-time All-American FCS, and you get to see him in the Big Ten. He held his own. Good footwork, kind of a good zone blocker. I think he could be a good zone blocker at the next level. Movement skills, gets in position, and pretty good pass protector. So I really liked Luke Newman. He was one of my late round sleepers on the offensive line. There's a few guys I wanted to see drafted late, and it was Newman, one of my old Little League teammates, who's now a coach at James Madison, was one of his coaches at Holy Cross. I was texting with him a few weeks back. I'm like, hey, kind of like Luke Newman. He goes, yeah, I like Newman. He likes him. And boom, 6th round, Luke Newman. So there's your sleeper Bears, Luke Newman, 6th round guard from Michigan State. Let's wrap it up. Round 7. Who you got?
Curtis Rourke, quarterback from Indiana, going to the San Francisco 49ers. I tweeted out that Curtis Rourke was my sort of sleeper quarterback this draft. Actually, he wasn't even a sleeper. I had him ranked as like the 7th quarterback in this draft. And now he's connecting with Kyle Shanahan. And look, that's like 2 positions, right? If you tell somebody that a running back or a quarterback are going to be coached by Kyle Shanahan, it's going to make you perk up, right? You're going to raise your eyebrows. You're going to pay attention. Curtis Rourke, I think, has got the ability to start at the next level. Like, he's maybe athletically limited, maybe the physical tools are limited, but he's got exceptional touch on his passes. He's a good diagnoser of defenses. He understands how to layer the ball in, how to hit the right guy. I would love to see him in a Shanahan offense. Like, I think it's a perfect fit there. I'm really excited by that even if it's only preseason high-end backup stuff. I think Kyle Shanahan can turn him into something. I
thought you were going to say you tweeted out that he makes Brock Purdy expendable, because Kyle Shanahan could turn anybody into his next Brock Purdy, 7th round quarterback. We know what he did with the last one, right? That's how it works. By the way, there was some years there's a lot of QBs that just don't get drafted. There ended up being a ton. Every one of those developmental quarterbacks and then some ended up getting drafted rounds 5 through 7. So there's a lot of QBs at least getting drafted, competing in the preseason. It's going to be fun. Round 7 for me, Tez Johnson. He came off the board, went to the Bucs. It's like an upside pick for the Bucs, but he's just another good. I put it in the same class as the other one. He's just a good football player. He's just a good football player who, he ran 4.51. And last year, Bucky Irving, he had an underwhelming workout, just like Tez Johnson did. But you watch them on the field, it's like he looks fast, he looks quick. The defense seems to think that he's quick. He just ran right by him. Yeah, so Tez Johnson could be a steal. Now, as always, in round 7, like, what's the path here, right? They've got 4 legitimate receivers, including Emeka Egbuka. What's the path to the field? Still love it as a pick in the 7th round, though, for the Bucs.
And he's unique on that depth chart. Yeah, like, it's a stacked wide receiver room in front of him, but he brings something to the table that none of the other guys do. Like, nobody has anything like the quicks that Tez Johnson is bringing to the table. I mean, you watch those Senior Bowl reps where he's one-on-one against people. You watch his plays over the middle, just carving up people with quickness. The Bucs have good receivers. They don't have anybody that moves like that. So, I think that's a way that, like, 6th, 7th round picks, late day 3 players can find their way to playing time, to some significant contributions if they bring something completely different to the table. He's also presumably at that. I don't know if they want to expose him to return plays, kick return, punt return, but that's another way in that, those other guys aren't necessarily going to be doing. So it's tough because it's a loaded room, but I think there's a pathway to doing something and sticking there.
We compared him quite a bit to Tank Dell. Different players, but same idea of slight player that's really good at football. And when we put Tank Dell's Senior Bowl highlights up there a couple of years ago, I mean, he was just toying with defensive backs. Tez wasn't exactly at that level, but makes corners fall over, in and out, shiftiness, in and out of his breaks, just outstanding. So you get that in the 7th. I love that.
People, because of that Tank Dell comp, which I don't love anyway, by the way, I don't think it's a great comp for Tez Johnson. But because of that comp, people were sort of thinking that maybe Tez will still go quite high, right? Tank Dell just showed you could still be really good at that size. I actually wonder if that comp hurt him, because Tank Dell's had these back-to-back injuries, and the second of which may be career changing. I wonder if teams are actually looking at that and going, hey, the last guy we tried to give a shot at this kind of size is now on the shelf and may never be the same again. Like maybe it's just too small to be good. I wonder, or maybe it was just, completely too independent, random, whatever.
Again, Steve's penchant for ignoring injuries. I still see Tank Dell as a hit, right?
We're heading into
year.
His injury doesn't exist to you.
Is he injury prone, or did he just, went into some bad luck over the last couple of years? But as a player, he's been outstanding. Because that's the question: was could his size, Tank Dell, could his size play at that level? Yes, it can, but can he hold up? Yeah, that's still a question, because he's been hurt each of the last 2 years. So yeah, I think you're right. It could have hurt him during this whole process.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.